Yes, thank you. Dobro utro, or good evening to everybody. Greetings from Cairo. I'm in Cairo now. I will briefly present, let's say, an old project from 2010, 2015, but we were pioneers. So I will give some issues that I think are relevant for DARYA. So you can go to the next slide if you wish, yes. The project is called Qualification for the Mediterranean. Why? Because it was covering North African countries, which you see on the slide, and also a number of European countries. And they were connected to each other because they were neighbors. What was missing compared to DARYA is there was no policy framework, political framework, like you have now in Central Asia. I think this is very important to mention also for my presentation. There were two sectors, key sectors chosen to be object of work, the construction sector and the hospitality. Why? Because this sector were relevant at international level and also relevant for migration purpose. So this was the reason why these sectors were chosen by the countries. Now, the main objective of this project was mainly to create transparency and trust between the countries in regard to the qualifications, a number of qualifications in these sectors, but also to improve their own systems by working together. And this is a little bit also what is the object of DARYA. So this is quite interesting to see. Let's go to the next slide. Yes. So the logic of the project was to create methodology, also to create transparency. You know, if you are transparent to each other, you can also create trust. Eventually, and this is maybe the ultimate goal, which we did not achieve and which would be very difficult, is to create conditions also for recognition, for acceptance, that will facilitate also in a more smoother way mobility of workers. Yes, we can go to the next slide. Here I will elaborate a little bit. Yes, the next slide. Yes, yes. So if we go now to the part, no, the previous one, the previous. Sorry. Yes, this one. If we go to the chapter of transparency, yes, what we basically did was thinking. We developed a method to understand each other, and the language that we have chosen was the language of the European qualification framework, meaning that we have used the concepts of the qualification framework: knowledge, skills, attitudes. We have used the descriptors that are applicable in the. So these are the scripts, the levels. We apply to the levels, the 8 levels of the AQF, and the concept of learning outcomes. So these were the basic components of the language that we have adopted to talk to each other about qualifications. It's like you use Russian to talk to each other, basically. So what was important to make this language operational, we did a lot of capacity building and exercise, because it was not easy to change from your language to another language and then talk to each other. So I think this is quite important, and maybe also important for DARYA project. What we did is we decided to develop common profiles. And how did we do that? Simply by discussing about the jobs, what they have to do, and the correlated skills in order to do the job. For that, we proposed a sort of format, that was developed for the project. And at the end, we came to common profiles, which was a little bit the melting of the different components of the occupation that were chosen. So this was the first phase of the project. The second phase was, how can we compare that with qualifications in the countries? And this was quite interesting because basically what we did is we tried to identify the qualifications in the countries that had the skills covered that were described in the common profile. So this was not easy to do this exercise. For that, we we developed the questionnaires, some instruments. We have also used digital tools to do comparison, which was developed by University of Torino. And this was also very, very interesting. So this was a very technical exercise. It required very, very much efforts from the partners because there were country teams. But at the end, we managed to do this exercise. And we used also a number of tools like the certificate supplement, which was a sort of communication document that explained in a more learning outcome-based way when somebody had a certification of a country like Tunisia, what were the learning outcomes that were achieved in this qualification. So in this comparison, if we go then to the so what we also did is we produced reports. So because we had to go to trust and create the conditions for recognition, let me put it this way, for trusted qualification. So what we did, we inspired ourselves also what happened in the AQF European Qualification Framework process, was to create a sort of, we called it strategic committee, a sort of AQF advisory group, but it was not for the AQF, it was for the project, in which we agreed on a number of processes, how to endorse, how to make sure that the qualifications that each country presented through the tools that we had developed, how could they be kind of endorsed? So in this, for that we had the certificate supplement. We had a number of reports. Each country had to reproduce a report in which they described the relevance, the standards, the learning process. How do you acquire these qualifications, the assessment, and the certifications? So this was information that countries needed to provide to each other, and then they came in a sort of peer reviewing process. So I think I'm going to stop here for questions, but this was the process. Now, I have to observe that at the time there was no ESCO, there was no international standards. It was really pioneer work done by all the participants. And participants, I say, employers' organizations, sectoral, and also authorities, ministries, and qualification authorities. So it was a really mixture group of relevant stakeholders to do this work. And we had not the resources that DARYA had. We have 150,000 euro per year to make this happen. The project ended at a certain time, but the tools and I think the methodology and the lessons learned can be very useful for DARYA, according to me. I will stop here because I will give last slide. So the results of the projects, you can read them on the slides. So we had a number of common profiles, a tested methodology, a strategic committee, a certificate supplement. So I think there were a number of results that still can be used also by like a project like DARYA. So I stop here because I don't want to go into details. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.